Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Last week, Dan rang to ask if he could arrange to record a podcast with himself and his life coach, Rob Kelly. Now, he stressed that he didn't want us to know anything about the contents of the show that he had planned. Myself and Toby heard the news for the very first time, as you're about to now. Here's the show.
Take your mask off now, mate. We're off. Oh, we've got Kevin as well. Hi, Simon.
Dan, all right?
Hello, mate.
Hello, Rob.
Hi
This
there.
is Rob Kelly.
We're allowed to do that?
We are.
Yes, yeah.
Nice to see you.
This is my life coach. Got a few bits to talk about there.
Blimey, look at this lot.
Are we
yeah.
rolling?
We are rolling.
Are we rolling?
We are.
Turn my
Right,
phone off.
I'll show you. We'll start with the main event. Can you see that?
Right, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Can you see that, Tobe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, if I put that on the floor, so that is basically coming out of me at the moment. See that, Tobe?
Yeah. Jeez.
See
Okay.
that, Simon?
Yeah, I see that, Dan, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And what that's basically doing is it's having the desired effect just from the sound of your voice.
Yeah,
That is draining into these.
this is a catheter.
I don't know if they call it that. It's a drain.
Right,
It's a drain. So basically, I've had all the lymph nodes removed under that armpit because I had a melanoma tumour in that armpit. I'm going to live, so don't
Right, okay.
don't,
Okay.
don't get upset about it. All right. If I could reuse that and put it in a spod mix, it would be really good.
potent stuff. Yeah,
They
it
love
looks
a bit
at...
of blood. They love a bit of blood. Basically, this is in me. I'm 2 weeks post-op now. I had 4 tumours in my 3 in my right arm. You see that
Right,
there,
right.
and 1 under my armpit. It's the first time this third time I've had melanoma, and it's the first time it's got under my armpit. And what they do is they remove all the lymph nodes to stop the cancer getting a chance to go anywhere else in the body. So
Okay.
it's belt and braces. These drains are the same. If a lady, has breast cancer and they have to remove the breast, it's the same op. So I've filled them bottles up already once completely to the top, and had to go into the hospital and have them redone, changed over, which was beyond unpleasant. But we'll backtrack a bit
Okay.
and go back to the start of the story, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, Rob, if you want to put the headphones on as well, and we'll
I'll
get
put the
started.
headphones on now I'll sit down. I'm not in pain
Okay.
at all. I'm
Right.
on paracetamol only 3 times a day now. I've got some videos to give to you, Tobe, because I videoed this.
Right, this is not for sympathy, right? I don't want any fucking sympathy. This is to make you understand. Take the fucking sun. Take it seriously. Respect the sun. Enjoy the sun. Don't abuse the sun. This ain't a fucking joke, I tell you. Wear factor 50. Wear long clothes. Wear a floppy hat. Don't be a prick like me.
Because the whole point of coming and doing this, I'll sit down. The whole point of coming and doing this was to raise awareness in people. Just wear suntan lotion, and my dealing with all of this has been far easier because of what I've learned from what Rob's teachings about psychology and about mental health. What I've learned from him, and he's been my coach over the last year, 18 months. Is it as long as that, Rob? 18 months, or
Feels
was it a
like
year?
it.
That was last May, I think, last April, May, in lockdown, we started talking.
That's right, yeah.
And the difference that his teaching has made is monumental, and not just in my dealing with this, because there's a lot more to it that I'll tell you about in a minute, but in everything else in life as well.
Right, okay.
And as I feel now, I honestly feel like I've been born again, Simon. Honestly. It's not an exaggeration.
Right.
And if people can, by the end of this, if they can wear factor 50, or do thrive, then I've won. That's the whole point of it. This is not to get. This is why I've not told him, because it's been going on for 4 years now. It's not why I've not told anybody at all. I don't want sympathy. Sympathy doesn't cure cancer, does it?
No.
Doesn't. It actually makes it worse, because all it does, it makes it seem more and more and more important than actually it is. And a lot of Rob's teachings, I think I'm right in saying, is to play it down, is to talk it down, minimise it, don't catastrophise it, don't blow it out of proportion, and focus on the positives, and just try and get on with life. Take action rather than sit there dwelling on it all the time, Let's put these on. So I think.
Well, we'll introduce you both to this. Dan, thanks for coming on the show. Obviously, you've got some important stuff to talk about. And Rob Kelly as well. Welcome to the podcast, Rob.
Thank you very much. Very excited.
So just to give everybody a bit of an insight, you spoke to us last week, Dan, and you wanted to do an impromptu sort of podcast.
Yep.
None of us know what you're talking about here, so this is... This is a surprise to all of us.
Did you hear all of that? The fact that I wasn't talking into the mic.
It did come in, but if you want to relay some of it again, just
sorry, you should have said to me.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I was a bit taken back. I should have said something, but it is obviously.
I'll go through the story again,
but
because it's quite a detailed account, and it's not just melanoma that I've potentially had and then ended up not having. So there's a lot going on to it, but I think Rob basically is we don't talk a lot really now, do we?
No.
The whole point of it is self-sufficiency. It's not reliance upon a coach or a lifestyle or a mantra or whatever. It's you sorting it out for yourself, and the whole point of it is that these people become obsolete, not needed in your life in every single turn, every single challenge. You get the tools that you need to deal with all of those things on your own.
Yes,
that's what.
That's the objective.
Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a good starter if Rob, if you can explain how you got here today.
What, I mean, physically?
Physically, yes. Where you came from, how you came.
Okay, so I live down in Devon now. I was been in Cambridge for the last 30 years. And I was brought up in North Devon and Cornwall, and absolutely love it down there. But about 2 years ago, I moved back down there, and it's the most wonderful thing. Being near the beach, being in the sea every day or something, in the water, on the water, walking by it.
Is that close enough? That mic?
Can you just pull the mic up a bit closer? Rob, if you want to just talk as close to the mic as possible, really. Straight into the mic.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
And what Dan is referring to is that I flew up today. I've got a little aeroplane, a little microlight, and I flew up from Salcombe in South Devon.
Wow.
And landed 4 or 5 miles away in a little private farm strip.
Wow, I don't think we've ever had that before.
We picked him up from Barleylands in Billericay, and there he was with his cap on, just
I love that.
That's a rock star.
James Bond, isn't it?
Bond villain.
He hasn't got a cat on his lap or anything, unfortunately.
Well, I did have a cat actually, but
it fell out.
He left it with the pilot.
I do look like a Bond villain, though, don't I?
You do look like you are. Yeah.
People say I look like a bouncer. I look like a bouncer Bond villain.
The opposite to what you realise. Do you want to just tell us what your job is and what you do for a living?
Yeah. So I'm 53 now. Ever since I was about 19. After being absolutely amazed because my mum stopped smoking on New Year's Day, a New Year's resolution. Ever since I was about 3 years old, every New Year she said, I'm going to stop smoking, and she did something else every New Year and lasted 2 or 3 days and then kind of went back to it again. So I think I was about 19. And she said, I'm going to stop smoking this New Year's Day. She said, I'm going to see a hypnotist. We thought, all right, fair enough. And she just stopped smoking. She just stopped smoking, just like that. It wasn't difficult, no side effects, no withdrawal. She just stopped. To me, you talk about it a minute ago, it was like a religious experience. Something amazing had happened to allow my mum to do that thing.
I'm a qualified hypnotherapist.
Okay, there we go. And it just blew my mind. So I dropped everything I was doing, which to be fair wasn't very much, and went off and did some training to be a hypnotherapist. And so for the 30 years after that, I was a kind of analytical hypnotherapist or a forensic hypnotherapist, mostly working with survivors of sexual abuse and trauma and this kind of stuff. About 13 or 14 years ago, I kind of got tired of needing to constantly be there to help your clients. You know, you get them over something, and then they'd create a different phobia, or something would come back, or there'd be trauma later on, or be something going on. And we started working more with how do you empower someone rather than always being there, needing to hold their hand, needing to help them. They don't get themselves better, you were getting them better. And we started to do some research. And it was absolutely shocking one night. And I don't mean to hog the mic, right?
No. I want to hear this.
I don't.
We've never met, by the way. We've only ever met on Zoom. So This is the first time I've ever been in the same room as him, and really? I'm as much in awe as
well.
You
I mean,
guys
you've been mentioned a bit before, Rob. So
all good, I hope.
Yeah, no, but I want to hear it.
So around about the same time, so that happened. I did some hypnotherapy training courses, and at the same time that was going on, some new neighbours moved in, and this is a funny thing, right? Not a nice thing, weird thing. Some new neighbours moved in, and he was a nuclear physicist, and she was a radiotherapist from a hospital around here somewhere. Okay, got to know them, lovely people, and we were talking about children with leukemia specifically, which is her speciality. And I said, "Oh, what an amazing job you're helping these people." She said, "It's horrible." I said, "What do you mean it's horrible?" She said, and these are her words, "We know within 10 minutes of meeting these kids which ones are going to live, which one's going to die, just by their attitude they display in the waiting room."
This is in the book, isn't it?
That bit's in the book. Yeah. And I actually remember thinking
what's the title of the book?
The Thrive Program.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought, that's a bit weird. I thought, she's over-egging it a little bit. But then when I got to speak to her husband, I started looking at some of the research. For example, a teenager going through allogeneic bone marrow transplant for leukemia is twice as likely to be alive a year later if they've got that fighting spirit and that they feel powerful and in control. Twice as likely to be alive, because of course it massively affects your immune system, how much effort
that's
you
research
put in.
That's not an opinion.
Yeah. No, that's research. Yeah. I can give you the paper.
Right. Wow. And so you two was it through Rob's experience that you two? How did you find out?
What basically happened was before. I think I'd already had the melanoma recurrence once, but a mate of mine, Matt Bolton, real long-term friend. He gave up smoking through doing Thrive, and he told me about it and said the lady that he was using, and I went to her for hypnotherapy actually, and she said to me, "Look, I don't want to do hypnotherapy on you. I'd like you to do Thrive." She said, "Look, I'm not a bona fide consultant, but I can take you through it. A bona fide coach or whatever, a recognised coach, I can take you through it." And obviously I didn't know any different, so for me it's a new experience. I've got nothing to compare it to, and I went through it with this lady Rita and got a load out of it. But at the end of it all, I still I went to lose weight, and I did lose some weight, but the real big the real big differences and the real big breakthroughs have come through working with Rob. So it's got to the point where I've gone through the 6-week program, which you just work through a manual. It's like rebuilding a car engine or learning French or what. It's very step by steppy all the way through. There's work in it to fill out questionnaires, and so you get a sense of yourself and what sort of how you think and what helps you, what doesn't, all that sort of stuff. Very self-awareness based at the beginning, and then lots of techniques in how to improve those things that you've highlighted that perhaps are holding you back. Would you say that's a fair?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah?
Do you adjust interventions for different people, or is the model's pretty much the same?
The model is the same, whoever does it, whatever age, whatever situation, wherever they live, because it's not about what's wrong, it's about training you to take control of your mental health and then really learn to absolutely thrive. And when you're on that continuum, imagine a line, the more thrivey you are, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute, the more thrivey you are, the less you are going to create poor mental health. The more you're likely to respond to situations in life with a powerful, positive attitude, and you're less likely to brood and ruminate and give yourself a hard time and this kind of stuff. So it's a total skill set for taking control of your mental health and then really learning to thrive with it and make the best out of every day.
Compared to what I've done before, and I've done a lot of self-development since my early 20s, and I'm 50 now, compared to what I've done before, it's far less confrontational. It's a nicer experience, much nicer experience, but it also is not constantly dragging up the past and trying to analyse the past, and this is why I am the way I am now. It's like, the past happened, but you're going to make yourself feel so good about yourself that the past doesn't matter anymore.
I'm trading solution-focused therapy as well. So is it based around that as well, then, that kind of... what you're going to do on an hour-by-hour, day-by-day sort of basis in the future, rather than like stepping back and dwelling on the past.
It's a little bit more than that. In as much as we did I worked with a research from Cambridge University, and we worked a lot of hours on it for 2 or 3 years, based on what I'd already done. And let me give an example. So you probably don't know this, but you can guess that the vast majority of adults that were abused as children are negatively affected by that. Makes perfect sense, right?
Yep.
But what you might not know is somewhere, depending on which research you follow, somewhere between about 8 and 16% of those kids abused not only are not negatively affected, but they go on to develop absolutely happy, fulfilled, emotionally stable lives. For some reason, it didn't seem to affect them as much. And what the research says is that these kids had a skill set to deal with the ups and downs of life, which means those ups and downs and those difficulties didn't affect them as much. They managed to turn those negatives into positives. So we would describe those kids as thriving, okay? And then what we did, we identified what it is that those kids were doing that those kids weren't, and then we created a training course to teach those skills.
Right, what were the kids doing then?
They a whole load of things, right? But primarily, first of all, they felt powerful. In themselves, they felt powerful and skillful. They didn't go into a situation feeling powerless. They had a very positive mindset, and they would think things like, this is not about me. I know he's picking on me now. This is not about me. I'm not a terrible person. This will pass. I can get through this. I'll get round this.
Do you know where they get that from in the first place?
Yeah, they're taught it by parents, by society. It's a skill set that you learn.
Learned behaviour. Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
That's what I've really got.
Yeah.
Getting back to sort of how we met, right? This is quite cool. So, the coach I was with, she was stumped. I wasn't sleeping well at all because melanoma. Once melanoma, everyone says, "Oh, it's only skin cancer. It's a mole. Just cut it out." Once melanoma gets in your bloodstream, it's incurable, right? So it's when you're going to die, not if you're going to die from it, and that is looming over anyone that's had a reoccurrence of melanoma like me. Every 3 months, I go for a brain scan that takes an hour and a half, MRI on my brain, and a PET scan where they inject a radioactive liquid into you for an hour, and then you have a scan, and that radioactive liquid sticks to any cancer. So every 3 months, and this has gone on for the last 4 years, I get told I'm fine or I've got 6 months to live.
Right.
That's how I have to live, and that's how I'm going to have to live pretty much indefinitely, because I've now had a reoccurrence twice. So I'm now as at risk as you can possibly be without it actually being in my internal organs. And that was bothering me. I couldn't sleep because I was worrying about it. Yeah. So the woman I was working with, because she does hypnotherapy as well, she said, I want to do hypnotherapy over WhatsApp so you can listen to it each night, and that will help you sleep. That's in complete contradiction to the Thrive program, because the Thrive program is about you doing it to you, not someone else doing it to you. It's internal. You're creating it for yourself.
It's empowerment, isn't it?
Other thing is anything else that people are doing to you is external. So if you have a crappy day because it's pissing with rain outside, that's external. If you have a brilliant day no matter what, because you feel great about yourself, that's internal. And it was external. It just didn't sit right with me. I'm thinking, I've gone through all this stuff about being internal, and then you're doing something external. I did one night where I slept well, and the next night I thought, this ain't right. I should be doing this myself. So purely as coincidence, Chappers, Adam Chapman, I said, I walked into product development. He went, you know that course you talked about on that podcast, that Rob Kelly? Well, Ben Harvey Murray, who used to work for us, only used to live with him. And I was like, fuck off. And he was like, no, I talked to him about it. I went, get me Ben's number, right? Ben has left us, didn't work out with us, left us, ended up, when he was living with him, was obviously done Thrive, has ended up moving to California. He's now a shark fishing instructor off the beach in California and has a beautiful Californian wife, right? Bit of a change tone, yeah. From when I just a bit of just a wince, you know.
Only a tiny bit.
So I got in touch with him, told him about the whole thing, gone through Thrive, what's going on for me, can't sleep, all that. Would really love to work with Rob, and eventually he gave me Rob's number, and eventually, because Rob doesn't do WhatsApp, eventually I got in touch with Rob, and in one session I slept like a baby.
Wow,
that's incredible.
And he basically said, you are through your ruminating and brooding, you are trying to control an uncontrollable thing by thinking about it. Cancer is an uncontrollable thing, yeah? If you could control cancer with your mind, then no one would end up dying of cancer, would they? Would they? They wouldn't. If you could think hard enough to cure yourself,
it wouldn't.
That is impossible, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because it's an uncontrollable thing. Yes, you can have treatment and everything else, but actually, definitively, those treatments sometimes don't work. You know, I've been through anti-cancer treatments and I've still had it again. Yeah, and when that penny dropped for me, that I'm wasting all of this brain power and time, and I'm upsetting myself trying to control an uncontrollable thing. Slept like a baby.
Right.
So you know, so many things are linked to how you think and how you deal with them in your head, and we all go through all of that in our lives all the time, don't we? You know, and as you know, I'm going to backtrack to the start of the story in a minute and give you the full bifter. And it didn't. Other things came up for me that were still bothering me, and I would still brood. I've been a brooder all my life. You know, I grew up, mum and dad split up when I was very young. My mum she did her bit, but she wasn't as interested perhaps as she could have been. Yeah, she was living in Southend, I was living in Romford. My stepmum didn't want us, blatantly admits she didn't want us. She had looked after us so that my dad would make her pregnant to give her a son. That was the deal. Yeah, bearing in mind they're married, but that was the deal in like 77 or whatever it was. So she resented us from the second we were there. I went quiet and withdrew. My sister rebelled. Yeah, that's how. And my sister's still rebelling now. You know, whatever years later. Yeah. So my dad wouldn't back us up because he was out of work all day. And I remember when I became a perfectionist. The moment I became a true perfectionist, yeah. And Rob says in the book, perfectionists are running away from feeling like shit. Is that the line?
I think you're paraphrasing, but yeah, it's more or less it, yeah. Low self-esteem,
Yeah, so we'd done something that my stepmum had berated us for. Stepmum was 5 and 7, yeah? She's had a go at us for. Dad's come home from work. We've run to him in tears. Dad, Hazel's done this. And in that moment, he went, Hazel makes the rules. And I'm like, I am on my own in this world. My mum's in Southend. I see her twice a year, you know, because she can't be bothered to come up and see me. She's got her own life, yeah. My dad, who was my hero, has just said, I'm not getting involved. And we've got this ogre who used to stand over us, force us to eat liver that we didn't like, and we'd be gagging, 2 young kids gagging and she'd stand over us and make us eat the whole lot. You know, so that I withdrew and I became a thinker, and I thought from then on, I said, if I'm just good, I won't attract any attention to myself. I'll just be good, and being good is being a perfectionist, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, so I've been like that my entire adult life until I've learnt what I've learnt, training myself. So really what I'm doing is parenting myself the way my parents should have instilled things in me and given me self-confidence and supported me. I'm doing that for myself now, in the best way I could have ever done it. You know, having done loads of other training, I'm doing that for myself now. And I honestly feel the happiest I've ever felt, and like I've pretty much been born again. I'm the best version of myself I've ever been.
No, that's,
you know.
Just getting back to obviously you coming into the studio, and you know, that was quite shocking. So has there been a reoccurrence?
I could see the colour drained out of your face. Yeah, I could see. I thought you were going to faint.
I forgot to press the buttons for about 5 minutes. Just like,
we were recording though, Toad.
We were, yes,
good
were.
Man, good man.
Has it reoccurred then, Dan, recently?
Yeah. So go back to the start of the story. So I had a mole on the back of my arm that you can see if you watch Masterclass, which is one of our instructional films. I had a mole on the back of my arm, and Missy said, "You want to have that looked at? You want to have that looked at?" I haven't seen that before. Really dark black mole on the back of my arm there. So eventually went to the GP. They referred me on. Went to Lewisham Dermatology. They had a look at it through the old microscope or the little eye that they look at. And they said, "Look, we don't know for sure, but we're going to whip it off anyway." That's their sort of the belt and braces. Just get rid of it. Yeah. So within a day, I'm laying on my side, and they're doing local anaesthetic in the back of my arm. If you've never been injected with a massive needle 10 times in the back of your arm, that ain't fun. I was sweating like you wouldn't believe, gritting my teeth like, and they're like, "You're right," and I'm like, "Yeah, just do it."
Yeah.
And then when they're cutting it out, you can feel them doing something, but you don't know what it is. And what they do is they cut around it, and it goes off for biopsy, and then they tell you. This is just before New Year. 28th of December, whatever. I then go to Miami on holiday with the family. My little girl, who's 1.5, and my missus. Get the call in Miami from Lewisham Dermatology. "We need you to come in immediately." That's the first thing she said to me before she even asked, "Am I all right? Where was I?" So you know then, don't you? You know. And I'm like, "I'm in Miami. I can't get here for 11 days. Well, you need to come in to us as soon as you get back." And I said, "Look, I'm a big boy. You can tell me, right?" So she said, "I'm not authorised to tell you over the phone. I'll speak to the dermatologist." And the dermatologist, Dr. Janet Ross, who is the most wonderful lady, who's had melanoma herself. She said, "I know you, Mr. Fairbrass, well enough. I know that you can take it. Yes, it tested positive for melanoma. It's gone down 2 millimetres into your skin. When you come back, we want to do another operation, take away a load more skin round the original area, just to be sure, test that and see if it's spread in the skin. And take 3 lymph nodes out, glands under your armpit, and we'll test them as well." So now I'm on the holiday, lying there in the sun, as we speak, with swimming trunks on, or swimming shorts on. My little girl's paddling around in there, and I'm thinking, I'm going to die. I've got cancer. I'm going to die. We don't know if it's spread. I'm going to die. And I'm looking at my little girl crying my eyes out around the pool at the Fontainebleau Hotel, which is a mega hotel in Miami. And at the time, I was working with a food psychologist from a company called Weight Matters, again, to lose weight. I've been on this losing weight sort of battle all my adult life.
You've lost a lot of weight recently.
I have lost a lot of weight through working with him, and we'll get on to that, because even I thought it was cancer when I lost the weight. I even asked my oncologist, because even I was worried about it, you know. So anyway, worked with this amazing guy, and he said, "Look, Dan, what you want to do so you can continue with the rest of your holiday, go up to your room at a specified time and be as upset as you can possibly be for an hour. Cry your fucking eyes out for an hour, get it out your system, and then come back and be a dad again for the rest of the time." I'll cry my eyes out all day looking at my little girl. I'm thinking, I'm never going to see the most wonderful thing that's happened to me. I'm never going to see her grow up. So I get a bit emotional about that. So I did that. And I went up and I forced myself to bawl my eyes out, and it only lasts about 5 minutes. And then you're like, well, that's boring, you know.
Did it work?
And it
Sorry,
worked.
I don't
And
know.
it worked.
I don't know how you got from that point to that in 5 minutes.
But you just because you force yourself to be as upset and to think about your own death and think about leaving your little girl without a father and all that. I've got a very vivid imagination.
Yeah.
You know how much I've created.
Yeah, of course.
I've always had a very vivid. So I can imagine. Imagine the people standing at my wake, crying their eyes out. Who was going to be there?
Yeah.
You know, that's very when that thing happens, all you give a fuck about is your little girl.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
The company, catching another carp, the company just pales into insignificance in relation to the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yeah. And
You're
how
not
long
gonna
does
have
that
that.
last for?
Well, it depends on how hard you work on it. I mean, it can last forever. People can be utterly debilitated by it, can't they? And you know, and live the short remaining period of their life like they're already dead. And I have done that for periods of time, so I know how that feels. I got through that holiday. I still trained, Tobe. I still went on the running machine and smashed the
Did you
shit
do
out
that
of
on
it.
holiday?
On holiday.
Wow.
I trained every single day. Yeah. I was in the pool with the little girl showing her off. It was like spring break, so it's like full of young American, like fit as you like birds. And I've just got my little girl going, look at her. And
They
they're
love
like,
an
oh
English
my God,
accent
she's
as
so
well,
cute. And
don't
I'm
they?
like, yeah, I'm fertile, baby. I'm a man. You know. I just absolutely loving it. She took her first steps in Miami, little Violet. You know,
Yeah.
she ran towards a Cuban waiter for the first time. And me and my missus was like, oh my God, she's
don't.
never going to Ibiza. If she likes a dark-skinned man who's got the chat, we're in trouble. Yeah, so we had the holiday.
Yeah.
Came back. I then got, because I've got private health through work. I was referred on to an amazing oncologist that I'm still with now, Mark Harries. Used to be Mr. Harries, now it's just Mark because I've spent so much time with him. When I go into the hospital, when I go into the Shard, the geezer behind the reception goes, morning. Honestly, like I'm coming into work. I've been in that building so many times. How you doing, sir? You all right? Yeah, lovely. How you doing? Yeah,
That's
great.
brilliant.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So referred to Mark Harries. He said, look, most of the time it doesn't reoccur. We want to give you this additional excision where they take away loads more stuff, but that is an art to take away a bit of skin that sort of size, yeah, and and you still be able to function is an art. So I was referred on to by a Dr. Alistair Mackenzie Ross, who is an absolute just a wizard with the scalpel. 3 times he sliced me up to bits now. He took all that stuff off, had it all analysed, hasn't spread anywhere else in your body. That's the end of it.
Right.
He said sometimes, the oncologist said, sometimes you get a minor reoccurrence, maybe on your nose. Hugh Jackman had it on his nose, didn't he?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And you now, because you've had this occurrence, for the next 3 years, every 3 months, you're just going to have a dermatologist look over your body. No more tests or anything else than that. Yeah. And then 2 years later, 2019, I like a bit of gristle underneath the original scar, which was quite a long scar. A little bit you could move it around under there. And I thought, that's weird. Felt it for like a couple of weeks, that's weird. I thought, I'm going to go and see him. So I went to see him. He said, right, we want to do a biopsy straight. It's probably not, he's bedside manner. If you're a medical professional listening to this or watching this, bedside manner should be the top of your list of skills. Because I've got some which have basically said I'm in the ground.
They're therapists,
just with the way,
with
the way they said it.
They need to be,
I might as well be in the ground already. And others that play it down. And Mark, who's going to come in for a podcast as well, and we're going to talk about the science of melanoma, so people can get a second hit of this is serious. He basically said, I lost my train of thought now. It's gonna.
With
When it came back, he said, "Yes, we're going to do a biopsy." Did a biopsy straight away. I was in his office. I remember sitting there. He said, "Oh, so it is." Oh, right, on the phone to the pathology. Right. Oh, it is melanoma. Oh, right, okay. So then, yeah, it is melanoma.
Matter of fact,
Mr. Mackenzie Ross. Let's ring him now while we're there. This is the beauty of private. If you can afford private, have private. compared to like the National Health. Like it's like going into an hotel. Honestly, it is. You know. So rung Alistair, because they're all mates, aren't they? They all know each other. Alistair, when can you fit in, Mr. Ferris? Tomorrow? Right, lovely. Bosh, I'm up there tomorrow. Wow. Local anaesthetic again. He's slicing me to bits on the original scar, because it's under the original scar. So he sliced the original scar open. I've got it cut out of me, right? But we've now got to put you through the tests again. So you have to go through your MRI and your PET to see if it's spread, right? 2 days after that, I went to the Korda shop social. I still had, obviously, the scar, the patch on my arm. And I remember saying to Spooner, I can't do any casting tuition at the moment. I've had a bit of an op on my arm. They're like you, blood strained out of his... You're all right, and you're down. I went, mate, I'm absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I at that I was the last man standing with all of them at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd had a tumour cut out of me 2 days before, right? Like, that's hero shit, isn't it? It is.
It is.
You know, but I didn't give myself credit for that at the time. I really didn't. I just thought, I've got to do this thing. I can't cry off of it. It was the anglers. It was the sponsored angler social. After that created a load of hoo-ha because everyone got off their nut at the social, and I did my last ever little bit of coke that I've ever done in my life at that do, and it all went out, and this geezer was going to like ruin us for it and all that sort of thing. Well, you can't ruin us now, mate, can you? Because yes, I used to do it all the time. No Thunderbolt. No Thunderbolt.
No, we can't see
the building hasn't cleared out, has it? Do you know what I mean? There's not people screaming running down the A127.
Yeah.
It's a recreational thing that is endemic now in our society, isn't it? Yeah. Right, but I cut myself a little bit of slack thinking I've just been through a lot of crap and someone's laid it on a plate, literally, for me. And yeah, I felt guilty afterwards, but that was the last time I've ever done it, and the more I've done this, all the other excesses I had, which was food and drink, you know.
Sorry.
So I used to drink to oblivion once a month as escapism, a coping mechanism. You know, put the techno on, Jack Daniels at home. I've got a bar in my house, home measures, and just absolutely pass out. You know, which is no good for you, is it? I used to hate it, felt so guilty and everything afterwards. Used to do all of that. I've stopped doing all of that now. I used to overeat on a continuous basis. You look back, have you seen the Sipography interview I did?
Yes.
My face is about twice as wide as it is now.
Yeah, I mean, you've lost an awful lot.
I'm down. I wanted to get less than 90 kilos in my adult life. I hadn't been less than 90 kilos since I was 26, 27. I used to train with my mate Andy that Rob met today 4 times a week, and I was 88 kilos and he was 89. I'll never forget it. Wow. And since then I've been in the 90s. I've been up to 103 kilos at my heaviest, and it's all psychological. The whole thing is psychological. It's not physical. You don't need the food. It's not willpower or anything else. You're doing it to mask something else that you're not, or I was, that you're not happy with, you know.
So Rob, when Dan came to you, was it quite familiar what you were seeing here? I mean, how did Dan sort of present his problems to you?
Well, at the very, very beginning, it was really just about the sleep, wasn't it?
It was about the sleep, yeah. It was about the worry, the brooding about it.
Toby, can I have a little bit more in my headset?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, mate. It was about the fact that he'd been through it, so he knew the skills. It's like thank you, mate. That's perfect. It's like training to be a black belt in a martial art. Okay, it's a skill set which you can then use various parts of that. And he kind of knew the skill set. He just needed to tweak it for and understand why he wasn't sleeping. And
I think as well, it's worth pointing out that if my wife's done Thrive as well now,
right?
You know, and she through having our little girl, she was, my wife was a proper party girl. She loved the social scene in London. She worked in media, and she went from that to being locked in a house with a screaming baby, and she did not take to it. And a lot of mums out there don't, and everybody's absolutely petrified of saying that they're a bad parent by doing that. But she struggled with it. She really did. I'm off gallivanting doing this all day, every day, in my absolute elephant, as we say, you know. And she's dealing with that, and especially with lockdown, she really struggled. She did thrive. She's like a different person, but she did it because I already knew Rob, she did it with a qualified coach and I didn't. And I think that made a big difference to how much I got out of it the first time, because I didn't have somebody who was straight down the line with it like Rob is.
Is it difficult? I mean, because Dan's obviously like a very motivated person. Is it difficult when, I mean, are all these people as motivated as that, or sometimes it's getting people to be motivated enough to want to help themselves in the first place.
But motivation is directly linked to how positive you are about an outcome. So if you were to say to someone, if you were to say to the 15 million obese adults in the UK, look, all you need to do is eat less and exercise more, that's not going to work with them, right? Even though that's true.
All you have to do, that's...
yeah. Even though that, for most of them that's true, it's simple maths, isn't it? Calories in and out. They're not stupid. What they lack is their belief in their ability to do that. So everything starts with a belief. Your psychological foundations, the foundations of your mental health, it's just a series of beliefs you have about life and about happiness and about emotions. And if those beliefs are helpful and powerful, then everything you build on top of that is going to be helpful and powerful.
I believed I would never get under 90 kilos, even though I was trying as hard as I possibly could. I genuinely believed I couldn't do it. And guess what? I couldn't do it. As soon, and I don't think it wasn't that belief that changed for me, but it was because I was using... I was escaping. So ever since I've been in my early 20s, I was in the ecstasy generation. I went out clubbing, got off my brains. It was, everyone was on pills. That was the culture, do you know what I mean? And in those 8 hours, you were invincible. So all the hang-ups you had about yourself, been bullied for being ugly, like all my young life, bullied for looking like a girl because I had big lips. I can remember going over the park when I'm like 8 or 9, and a kid forcing me into the bushes and getting me to expose myself to him to prove that I was a boy. But it wasn't. It was so that he could see my bits, wasn't it? He was a paedophile, as a teenager. But you're doing it because you're trying to, prove your point. Now, all the kids at school used to make cartoons of me, of like my nose even bigger and my head really small and massive lips and a massive nose coming out, and pass it all round the class and everybody be pissing themselves laughing. And when you haven't got anybody to back you up when you go home to go, no, you're all right, I love you, you're my boy or whatever, didn't have any of that, then I've had that was my belief that I was ugly.
But what about your self-esteem as well?
That was obviously very low. It's been very low all my adult life, and I've poured my heart and soul into something that go fishing on your own, don't you? There's no girls involved, is there? So you haven't got to be attractive. You haven't got to be attractive to the opposite sex, have you? You're doing it completely on your own. I can utterly apply myself completely alone to this one thing, and guess what? I loved it and I got good at it. And then I applied it to business, and the only way to stop me being successful would have been to kill me. That is nothing. Danny Turtle letting me down 200 times in a row, I would still be there at 1 o'clock in the morning putting tubes in leads on my own, almost in tears, but no one is going to slow me down and stop me from being successful, because I've found this thing that I can channel my life energy. Because when you're 18, 20, 21, you are full of life energy, aren't you? You can conquer the world, but I couldn't conquer the world with women. And I couldn't conquer the world and other things because I had this low self-esteem through what I'd learned, what I'd experienced, but I could apply it to that one thing. And I've been applying it to that one thing ever since, and look where we're all sitting.
Is that quite typical of people as well, that, that people tend to throw themselves into business, partying, doing all that sort of stuff hard? Because, I mean, for someone like Dan, it can be successful as well, but it also can be, there's some negativity there as well, isn't there? I mean, people partying and trying to escape.
The come downs, mate, are horrendous. Like, you've got this massive euphoric high. They used to call it Suicide Tuesdays in clubbing. I'll be watching the news like that, almost couldn't cry, but feeling like that because, is it serotonin?
Yeah.
It's obviously boosts it, and then you have a massive crash, you know, and then I was just living for Friday night. So I'd be in absolute misery at work during the week. Come Thursday, I'd be all excited. Friday, I'm back out again. And then you're out until Sunday lunchtime, from Friday night until Sunday lunchtime every weekend. And you're a hero, you're a superstar, you know.
If you reduce it down to something really, really simple, okay? So our emotions do not happen to us. They feel like they do, but they don't, right? So any emotion you've ever experienced, you have created. The weather didn't make you feel shit. The wife didn't make you feel shit. The motorbike crash. The way you've responded to situations in life and the way you process it, that's what generates the emotion, okay? You've got no stored emotion, right? So even if Danny was in a car crash 10 years ago and it was tragic and he had flashbacks to it, it doesn't exist anymore. It's just a thought he has about it now. Those emotions don't exist. So every time he reinvents this image in his mind of a car crash, he is generating that emotion fresh now. It didn't exist a minute ago.
It's funny you should say that, because I've been involved in a serious car crash, and actually I don't. It was a really traumatic experience, but I think emotionally I've dealt with that quite well.
Yeah.
But I can be quite emotional with a lot of small
Other things.
Yeah, and it's like. Whether you try and departmentalise that, I've always wondered whether I've just locked it away and not confronted it, or whether I'm dealing with it.
And this is the fallacy of therapy, okay? So the fallacy of therapy, any psychologist, therapist, psychotherapist around the world believes in this kind of doctrine of you've bottled that up. You know, he's got a lot of bottled up anger because but a lot of bottled up emotions. You know, a good friend dies. You know, you've got all these emotions. Okay, it's not actually true. You've got no bottled emotions. Read any cognitive psychology book, right? There's no diagram that says, and this is where you store emotions. Okay, any emotion you ever experience, you have just created. Okay, and there might be good reasons or bad reasons for it, right? But you've just fucking done that. You've just created that. Okay. If you feel sad tonight when you go home, when you think about Danny's current predicament, that sadness that you feel is no different than the sadness you'd create tonight if you went home and watched Lassie on telly, right? And yet it's
showing your age there, brother.
Sorry, Lassie 2, right? If you think about it, right, it's exactly the same emotion. One you could argue is very valid because your mate's not very well. Okay, the other one's about a cartoon. Okay, but you created them in response to something. It's not real. Lassie's not. It wasn't even a real fucking dog, right? You created that. Well, you're going to create it about Danny, and you might create it about your friend getting a job. You might create it about the problems in India with COVID at the moment. But you are creating those emotions, right? So that's the baseline for this. Any emotion any of us ever experience, we are creating through the filters that we have about what's going on in life. Okay. And if you don't have the skill set to manage them well, so you're always happy, and therefore your mood is dictated to by the weather or friendships or bullying, you're going to find some other way of making yourself feel better, hence all the disco biscuits and Coke and booze and whatever, okay? When you take that back control of your emotions, Danny's emotions would probably look like roller coaster.
The flat line, I passed it briefly at 100 miles an hour going up or going down. Not just going out clubbing and doing pills and all that, but just in life generally.
It's like bipolar,
I thought I was bipolar because I was either a misery or the best person in the room. And people will know, Kev will know from filming with me, if I am a misery, don't come anywhere near me, Kevlar. Is that right?
So have you learned to deal with that?
So what he's learned to do now?
Now because I have great self-esteem and I know that I'm a great employer, a great dad, a great husband, a great fisherman. I never thought I was a great fisherman. Not until recently would I acknowledge the fact that I was a decent angler. So when I was catching, I was unstoppable. When I wasn't, I was the worst person to be around because it just reinforced for me that I'm rubbish.
Right, two quick things, right? So he's gone from a roller coaster of his emotions, letting life happen to him, or believing that it was life making him feel the way, to taking control of that, managing how he responds to life. So his basic level of happiness has gone up dramatically.
Yep.
And it's still a roller coaster as it is for everyone, but it's now like this. You know, I'm at 95% most of the time. If I have a really good day, I might go to 98. If I have a really shit day, I go down to 92. I don't go down to 70 or 50 or 30.
Me too now, and that's
because
a revelation.
Whether it's 6 months or 60 years he's got left, every single day is precious, right?
Yes.
And when you know every single day is precious and you've got a skill set to manage it, you manage it well.
Yes.
And that's it.
Do you think, is there any sort of battle? Sorry,
I had a question. Dan, just for me, did you truly believe that you weren't a good angler?
Yes,
because for a lot of people, myself included, that will be mind-blowing, because I've known you since I was, a couple of feet tall, and you've always been, I always thought you were one of the best anglers around.
I am.
I am.
But I could never admit that before because being a perfectionist, you set yourself such high standards. I remember coming into work at the old place. James Armstrong was still working for us. I'd had 3 UK 40s in one session, right, which is hero stuff. And I went into work, and Armstrong was like, "Oh man, you've had a couple of the best ones and all that." I went, "Yeah, but I should have had 5."
Mate,
that's the first thing I said to him, right? Yeah. And up until very recently, until I learned to process the experience as a learning experience. So what have I learned from a session where I haven't caught anything, rather than berating myself? On the way back from Frampton, I would berate myself for as long as that car journey was, 4 hours. Wow. You run a fishing tackle company, you design products, you can get all the latest baits, you've got unlimited amount of bait available to you, you can ring Darryl Peck whenever you want, and you still can't catch one.
Yeah, but you can hear it.
Right? But
it's
the same thing. I'm trying to control an uncontrollable thing, which is a fish and the weather. You can't do that. So now, when I'm on the way back now, it's like, what have I learned? Don't go in that swimming in Alverley. They're not there. Look round more before you settle on a swim. Someone caught one from that swim over there that you completely written off. Write that down in your thing. My phone has got the most valuable information about every lake I've ever fished. However much anybody offered me for that information, it would not be enough.
Yeah.
And I've been recording that the whole time, but now I do it in a learning process even more than I've ever done before, and I never give myself a hard time.
So to help with that question, Tobe.
Yeah.
So a perfectionist is someone who sets incredibly high standards to get away from feeling shit. I felt that. I don't want to ever go back to that. I'm going to really stretch myself over here. But also, they have a lot of black and white or dichotic thinking.
So
it's not only that. If I don't reach 99%, I'm a fucking failure. Wow. So it's not processing. He wouldn't process the fact, look, I got 3 really good fish today. I did all right. It's, I'm an idiot. I'm a failure. I should have got 5 therefore. So you don't get any benefit. No. So you can have someone going through their life as a perfectionist, right, who is performing, in inverted commas, much better than any normal person in every aspect of their life. 95% as a wife, as a cook, as a mother, as everything else, right? But because she's a black and white thinker and she thinks she's failing, her self-esteem's through the floor. And if her self-esteem's through the floor, an effect of that would be that her social anxiety is going to be massive. So she might be beautiful and intelligent and funny and a great mum, blah, blah, but she'll never go out and want to mix with people because her own self-esteem is so low purely because of this silly filter in your thinking.
Yeah, wow.
But obviously a lot of people are resistant as well to with hypnotherapy and stuff like that. To start off with, people can be quite resistant to this. I mean, is it a challenge for you as well to kind of let people unshackle themselves in the first place? And
well, they don't need to unshackle them, and so this is purely a training course, right? It's not therapy. So regardless of whatever your background or whatever led you to be here today, right? Whether it's you or you, whether you've been abused as a kid, you've had a car crash, whether you were kept prisoner of war, doesn't matter. You're here to go on a very short training program, 6 weeks. We're not going to talk about the past. It's irrelevant. We're going to train you to take control of your beliefs, your thinking, your emotions, the way you process information, and we're going to teach you to optimize all of your skills to get the very best. One thing I would say is thriving isn't about being brilliant, as you can see. Right? A little bit nervous.
Do you know what?
Don't be
close. Is that not Rob?
Don't be fucking zooming in.
Well,
They modelled that.
we do have to rub the belly for good
We
luck.
always rub the belly.
No, there's no such thing as luck. There is no such thing as luck, and
Yeah.
that is one of the things that you
So
learn. There's no such thing as luck.
Thriving is not about being brilliant. Thriving is not about being perfect, okay?
Yeah.
It's the opposite to that. Thriving is about having a skill set that every day of your life you're making the best of it. Now, you might still be shit, right? All around you might be dying of COVID. You're not going to be singing and dancing, are you? But you have a skill set to make the very, very best of that. I did a podcast last week with an 87-year-old who had this massive phobia all her life, hardly left the house, blah, blah, blah. She got over it about 6 years ago, and I just did a revisit to her. You know, she's the most thriving octogenarian you'll ever meet, and she's not far from here. I'll introduce you to Braintree, right? Her name's Mary. She calls herself Wombat.
All right, what's that?
Wily old Mary, breathing and thriving.
Wow.
Okay. I said to her, Mary, how did you cope when the love of your life, your husband, when you finally died? I said, how on earth? You know, she's more thriving than you and I put together, right? I said, how on earth did you turn that into a positive? You know, what can you take from that? His name was Edgar, by the way. And she said, do you know what, Rob? I thought to myself, twice the dressing cupboard space. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it was a joke, right? It was a joke. But that's the point.
That's
you know,
brilliant.
what small positive could you take from that? And then suddenly you're not mourning your loss. You talked about a wake a minute ago, which is an interesting choice of words. You didn't say funeral, you said wake. So the difference between an Irish wake and your classic English funeral is, an English funeral, you turn up all in black, don't you? Eat a couple of vol au vents and sausage rolls, and you say, I'm sorry for your loss, and that's it. At an Irish wake, you celebrate their life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Was that intentional?
Yeah. Well, they like a drink.
But I wanted to have Prodigy Firestarter at both my weddings, and I wasn't allowed, so I'm fucking having it at my funeral or my wake, whatever.
It's a great
yeah?
tune.
Yeah.
I am having that, and everyone's going to stand there trying to be sombre when someone says, I'm the fucking instigator, like that. Can you imagine that?
I can see it now. You've got to have some strobe lights going as well.
Yeah,
To answer your question, sorry, I didn't dodge it. So it actually doesn't matter what state a person's in when they learn the thriving skill set, right? Because everything's on a continuum anyway, you know. And if you're in a really, really bad way and you're clinically depressed, like Ben was, you mentioned Ben, been depressed for 25 years, he was over his depression within a couple of weeks of starting Thrive. Which is disappointing to both of us, really, because he'd still be working here or working for me, but instead
he probably would.
instead
mate, yeah.
living the life of Riley.
Talented guy, but just had the wrong mindset at the time. You know?
I wish he wasn't cured, because he'd still be working for me. But but the point is, it was a very simple thing for him to do, to realise quickly what he was doing to create all this angst and stop doing it. So it doesn't matter whether it just wants to learn to thrive. If they're happy and thriving and flourishing in life already, you just want to be a bit better, that's great. Or if you've had a history of massive emotional and well-being issues and ill health, and you just want to learn the skill set. The skill set just teaches you how to make the most out of life. So it doesn't matter what your starting point is.
It doesn't matter how many layers of emotion you've got. Then.
No.
It's
No.
It can sound worse, can't it? I mean, if you've got all sorts of different, say, issues going on at the same time, you think it could take 10 times as long
what I've learned is to focus on taking action now, rather than focusing on the issues all the time. Just go out and take some action, and all them issues will disappear. You know.
Well, you spend your life going down a rabbit warren otherwise, don't you? You
100%.
go down.
Yeah, I've spent so much time in my own head, you wouldn't believe it with what's gone on.
If you think, and I don't mean to reduce it to something really simple, right? But if you were to reduce the stresses and pressures and hurdles and potential traumas of someone's life to something that we can all talk about, right? Let's say that Dan is now 50, and age 10, he was savaged by a pit bull, right? To the point, let's say he nearly died. He lost loads of blood. He's got scars all down his legs, okay? Let's say that happened. 40 years later, here's Dan, and he's got a massive phobia of dogs, and it's holding him back in life. And to see a dog, he immediately goes into a panic attack. Even see him on telly, he can't sleep at night, blah, blah, blah. So he's 50 years old now. What actually remains now, 40 years later, of that dog attacking him?
Yeah, it's just the memory. It's the feeling of it.
Neither of those things actually exist. Don't forget the emotions he's creating now when he's thinking about it. Okay. In terms of the memory, and this is a bit of a shocker. Okay. We don't store photos or videos anywhere. You have no storage in your brain for photos, right? Every time you have a picture in your mind, you picture your wedding day now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've just created that. Now, it might be very accurate, right? Okay. But memory is a process that where you are creating it a bit like you're painting it each time. It's not stored, which is why it's so easy to be fallible. I'll do a quick test, right? All four of you, okay? Get a picture in your mind of something you did in the last couple of weeks, something nice, right? Doesn't matter what, but not the whole thing. Not I went fishing for the day. A snapshot. You got one?
Yep.
Yeah, I've got one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Without going into great detail, what's the picture you see? You've got to get it into my mind. What do you see?
So I've got the barbecue in front of me, the flames rising up, and I've got 3 bits of sea bass on there, and I'm lifting them up just to see if they're done or not, so I can flip them.
Perfect. What's yours?
Mine was I got a bite fishing, and I'd not had a bite like it before. This fish had taken my feeder and surfaced. I saw all the line come out the water as the fish came out. And
Okay.
I was
So
like,
what do you which bit of it are you seeing now? Were you seeing the
it's
line?
the line and the fish. That's the bit. That
the line
sticks.
and the fish.
Yeah.
My boy's smile when he went out on the paddleboard for the first time on the river.
Paddleboard's lovely. Okay. So when you say you see that, is that all you're seeing him on there? Or are you seeing the family? Are you seeing the water? What do you actually picture?
Just him smiling.
Him smiling at you.
Right, I'm standing on a ledge on the Dorset coast, and I'm looking over to my left, and I can see Portland Bill, and I can see the lighthouse tower.
I just flew past that
Did
an
you?
hour and a half ago, yeah. So do you see yourself standing on the ledge, or are you standing on the ledge?
I'm standing on the ledge with a fishing rod.
Okay, and you can
But
see
so-
that now.
Yep, I can see that now, and I can see the lighthouse just over on about 10 o'clock.
Okay,
And then straight ahead of me, I'm looking across, see the lights, maybe Weymouth or something in the distance.
okay. So none of those things you just said were genuine memories, okay? For a start, with you and with Tobin, with you, you cannot possibly see yourself in the third person, can you?
No.
How can that be a memory?
Yeah.
Right. So that's a. I wouldn't use the word fabrication, although that's the right word. What you've done, you've remembered that you had a lovely time out with your boy and that smile, and then based on that information, you've created that lovely picture. Now, it's absolutely true. I don't doubt any of you, right? But you can't possibly have seen yourself in the third person. Okay. So that evidences the fact that it's a creative process, that you have no stored photos anywhere in your body, right? So like emotions, whenever you get a picture in your mind, you've created it, and you've created it from little bits of data, okay? So you actually store memories at brain neuron level, which is about 1,000 times smaller than a millimeter, as electrical energy, not photo, electrical energy, right? And let's say you store somewhere between 3 to 15% of that. So I say to you, think back to your wedding day, get a picture in your mind. Little electrons and little bits of electricity spark together, and he knows a couple of things about it. He knows he got married, right? So he's got a ring on his finger, right? He knows who his wife is, and he knows that she wore white, and it was at Billericay Church. And based on those little bits of data, he paints the picture and sees it there, right? And it might be very, very clear. And you might be surprised to find that you got only 1 or 2 bits wrong. Actually, Aunt Edna wasn't sitting on the right; she was on the left because it doesn't matter, right? And it might feel very, very real, but you've created that. It might be very accurate, but you've created it. But there is just as much chance that it's inaccurate. Yeah?
Yep.
But the point is this: a minute ago, it did not exist. Why do you think you carry photos in your wallet or now on your phone? Okay? So that memory, you have no memory. You have no stored memory of being bitten by this dog 40 years ago, right? You have no stored emotions about being bitten by this dog 40 years ago, right? So why the fuck are you still neurotic about dogs? The only thing that remains after 40 years is the belief you have about dogs. 40 years ago, you were scared shitless by a dog and you thought, create a belief, dogs are horrible, they're scary, get away, right? And you've maintained that belief ever since, because every time you've seen one, you've panicked and you run away.
And
The moment you change that belief, you're no longer overweight, you're no longer drinking, you're no longer...
I keep trying to
that's what
test that,
I did.
actually. Do you want to... No, I'm playing golf at the moment a little bit. And when I close my eyes or meditate, I do try and meditate. Every time I close my eyes and see my golf swing, I take the shot and then the clip keeps going over in weird places, and I go to bang the golf club into the ground every time. And when I try and visualise seeing a proper good swing, just hold it, finish, I can't do it.
I will talk you through that at some point.
Yeah.
I can talk you through it now if you want to, but I'll talk you through that.
One thing that I very recently, having obviously, I've had 2 other cancer scares as well, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But very, very recently, just talking about the belief, my belief about being ill was that it is horrific, you know. And my dad had his first angina attack when I was about 15, and my stepmum, like my learned behaviour from her, like generating that belief system, was total catastrophe. And that's what I saw. And I had a realisation about that was learned behaviour that I'd learned from Hazel. And one of the things that you learn to do is process the positive things that happen in your life. And I process those positives on my phone, so I record them down. And that thing of what was the positive experience? The positive experience was realising that I learned to catastrophise about illness from my stepmum. That was the positive experience. Why was it positive? Well, I've learned that it was learned behaviour. I can learn to be a different way.
You can unlearn it.
Unlearn it. The next step of it is, what would you say to someone else who'd had that experience? So if it was Tobe who'd done it and he'd realised that, what would I say to Tobe? I'd say, fucking well done, Tobe. You've been trapped in that all your life, and you've put that amount of effort into it to keep looking at it, and now you've got past it. And what have you learned? Well, I've learned that it's learned behaviour, so I can be a different way. And I've learned that I never want to be like her. Never. And that suddenly I am free of that catastrophising. And look at the position I'm in now. I've got 2 lines running out of me, 2 bits of 5mm rig tubing coming out from underneath my armpit, and I have done for 2 weeks. And I am crushing life like I have never crushed life. You know, in spite of all of that. And it's because I've changed my belief system. You know, that you know, I now believe that no matter what's thrown at me, I am going to make the absolute best of it.
And you've got a skill set to deal with it.
And I've got a skill set.
And
to deal with
sometimes
it.
things are shit, and all you can do is just cope.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the problems with COVID, I'm changing the subject completely, I do apologise, is the fact, you know, the big mental health crisis going on at the moment is that a lot of youngsters particularly do not have even the basic skill set, right? So life turns a little bit harsh for them, which ostensibly in the UK was not going out and seeing your friends for a few months and being homeschooled. And their mental health just declined rapidly because the little bits of fun and excitement they were getting, they're not getting anymore. And there's a massive, massive problem at the moment. And it's a real basics. You know, there's no...
I see kids walking down the road like 18, 20. Both of them got masks on outside on their own.
Lost, yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah, I know.
Like overreaction or what?
I see a lot of genius in what Dan's done, right? But there's no genius in the Thrive program at all, okay? It's a very basic, simple skill set that anybody can learn. It's not hard. It's much easier than therapy. It's much easier than counselling. It's much simpler than hypnosis. It's a basic skill set that says, right, you're doing that because you're thinking this way, and you're thinking this way because you've got this belief. You change that belief, all the behaviour and thinking will change as well.
Did you find out where you're changing that first belief that you went to change? That was the catalyst for everything else?
Yeah, I think for me it's threefold. It's the belief, changing your beliefs, which happens sort of periodically, processing your positives, which raises your self-esteem. So when I was in it the second time and I had the reoccurrence, then it gets serious. So then I had to go and have immunotherapy. I didn't have to, but I chose to have immunotherapy. Immunotherapy is basically intravenous, once every 3 weeks. This was going on not last year, the year before, from September up until January. Every 3 weeks I went to Guy's, sat in a booth with a load of other people sitting in booths with no air, you know, having chemo.
They don't knock it, mate, yeah.
And having that done to boost my immune system, yeah, so that if any cancer came back, my immune system would attack it. So it's the opposite of chemo. It's not poisoning it. Your own immune system's attacking it, yeah. And I'm just trying to think how there's So the self-esteem thing. You imagine you're going up there to have that done. It's very, very sobering to go into a place like that. It's serious. You're seriously ill now, aren't you? It's not. We're not playing anymore. And then having to have a PET scan and an MRI every 3 months, and having to wait to see if you're all right or if you've got so many months to live, because they can't give you chemo for melanoma. This is the other thing that people don't realise. Chemo doesn't work on it. Yeah. So all they can do is immunotherapy as prevention rather than cure. But once you've got it in your bloodstream, that is the ticking time bomb. That is, you've got 6 months if it's in your brain, you've got 2 years if it's in your liver. They can give you more immunotherapy and slow it down, but they can't stop it. Yeah. Now, what I used to do then, all the things I'd written. What was your positive experience? Taking Violet to the park for the day. Why was it positive? Well, she's so full of life. Her life energy is unbelievable. We looked for fairies. We had so much fun. You know, what would you say to someone who'd had that experience? You're such a great dad. You're really connected with your daughter. You give her loads of time. It doesn't matter that you go fishing. You when you're back, you're really back with her. And what have you learned? Even if you feel shit, go to the park with Violet. You're always going to feel fantastic. If it's you recording it on your phone, and I'm on the way up to Guy's to have this thing done, and I listen to that, suddenly I go from that to like a rooster puffing my chest out. You know, and that's something that anybody can do. And I've got my phone's not here at the moment, but I've got 150 positive experience recorded on my phone, and at any time, whether it's going to Zwalla to do the show and
so
how
you type
amazing,
all these up, do you? They're all.
No, you just record them on a voice note, and you just start with processing my positives on Wednesday. The positive experience was doing the Zwalla show with all the team. Why was it positive? Well, it's so amazing to stand back and watch 50 guys representing you from all them different countries. Like that. So you've got all different ones. Positive experience was catching a fish or smashing it at Gigantica when you come out late in the draw. Do you know what I mean? Or having amazing sex with a missus. Do you know what I mean? When you're, you know, everyone who's got a missus knows that sometimes you can touch them and it's like pulling the curtains open on a vampire and they go... like that, don't they? Do you know what I mean? And having low self-esteem, you don't want to do that and get that reaction, do you? But I've learned through this, because my self-esteem's gone up. I've tried it on when I didn't think there was any chance of trying it, and guess what? It's fucking worked.
There's a book in that, man. There's a book there.
But I've said to you already, you should do thriving for the ultimate sex life, thriving to find your perfect partner, and just apply it. Thriving to live with cancer, all those things. You know that would be a hook to get people in, because they're the fundamental things that people want in life.
So if I may, what he's explaining, what he was doing, go back to that line, the roller coaster line. If he felt himself dipping a little bit, he'll just play back some of his positives on his phone, and it immediately gives you perspective as well, doesn't it? You think, hang on, why am I going into a bad mood? I've got a beautiful daughter, I've got a beautiful wife, I work with all these amazing people, and you stop brooding and worrying and feeling sorry for yourself or feeling negative or whatever, feeling depressed, and you pull yourself out of it.
You can't do both. You can't think about both at the same time. No, it's physically impossible. You can only store one. You can only have one thought.
We know how important self-affirmation is as well, don't we? In everything. You know, it's.
But how many people ever do that in their own life? How many people actually step out? And that's one of the things I'm really proud of, that all my adult life I've been working on making myself better, and I've finally found something at late 40s, early 50s that is so easily applied and so, you know, just so simple and so painless as well to do. You know?
I think the beauty of it, right, is that it's easy. It's accessible, it's easy. There was a big study done, and you can probably get your head around this, that about 30% of old age pensioners in the UK, this is pre-COVID obviously, that go into an old age people's home, died in the first year. Okay, they were at that age anyway, right? And they kind of give up hope. And they did this massive study, and what they found was, if you gave an OAP just a pot plant to look after, just a plant to water and love every day and see it grow,
Have you heard of Milton Erickson?
Yeah.
Milton, it's the same story.
Yeah, they would live up to 30% longer, right?
Yeah.
This isn't changing their lives and making a list or anything else, right? This is just doing one small thing that makes you feel more, look, I'm growing this plant. Look, I'm achieving that. It builds your self-esteem. It builds your self-confidence, and it's a game changer.
So if you're waiting for a big inheritance, get all the fucking plants out of the house as quickly as you can.
Yeah. Don't be a gardener.
Get rid of I remember the Milton Erickson story with the violets, and he was treating somebody for and this woman was untreatable, and he had done a consultation with her, and he said, and he looked over and he saw a violet by the window, and he said, "Oh, you like violets, do you?" And they take a lot of maintaining. And then so she started growing violets.
I can second that. I've got a violet. They take a lot of maintenance.
Different sort of. Yeah. And she becomes so preoccupied with the plants. She started selling the plants to everybody. She had her own business going in the end, and she forgot she was even depressed.
Yeah.
You know,
all she's doing is seeing something grow into something beautiful and helping other people see that. How can you possibly feel depressed?
Flowers are a good analogy for that as well.
Embryo is one of my violets, isn't it?
It is.
Gigantica is one of my violets. Korda is one of my violets.
This stuff as well. It's you know.
Yeah, that I mean that's a putting something back, the clothing side of it. So let's finish the melanoma thing, and then we can, you know, I want to show people the suntan lotions and the amount of tablets I'm on and all that sort of thing as well. So I had the immunotherapy. Had it for 4 months, every 3 weeks for 4 months. Came in here. I mean, I'm assuming you and Tobe had absolutely no idea that I'd gone through any of this.
None at all.
No clue.
Genuinely.
Right. No, and we've done the first podcast, and you were talking about this.
The last podcast I did with you,
but
I had suspected bowel cancer.
Shit.
And can you believe that I was waiting to hear if I had it or not?
Right.
In that podcast.
God blimey.
See, this is why. Sorry, I don't want to just jump in, Dan. But I'm going to be honest with you. I got quite emotional about 15 minutes ago.
Right.
For me, again, not like others. Again, I've known you for years.
Yeah.
So to understand that you actually went through all this. So as a kid, I used to see you because Dad used to bring me into work all the time.
Yeah.
I used to see Danny and think, man, look what he's done. Like he's the bomb. He's got it together. He's done this, that, and whatnot. And I used to think that you were like untouchable.
Yeah.
And it's totally, you know, like 10, 15. I was taken aback to actually, like, you know, all these things that you were going through. You just have had no idea.
Yeah.
And this podcast is another example of that.
Yeah.
You know, so mate, just from me to you, podcast aside, fair play, mate.
Yeah,
Cheers, mate. Well, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing it for, so people can learn from my mistakes. That's the whole point of it. It's got nothing to do with sympathy. I don't want it. If you ask me in the street, "How are you, mate?" I'll just look at you blankly. I don't want it. All I want to do is for people to learn from my mistakes and learn what I've learned. If I could have done Thrive when I was 20, I would have shagged so many birds. It would be unbelievable. Because, you know, you all look back at your old passport pictures and think, you know what, I was actually pretty...
It wasn't that bad, was it?
I look back at a picture. I stayed in Pikes with my ex-wife, who was absolutely stunning, and I put her massively up on a pedestal, and we had a really bad relationship because of the way I was being. And she just took advantage of the fact that I put up. But I looked at this picture of me in Pikes, and I was like ripped and everything. I was like, "You were fit as a butcher's dog, son. Like, why weren't she on you like a rash the whole time?" Because I didn't believe it in myself. I just didn't, you know. So anyway, I've done the immunotherapy.
Dan,
So
I know I'm butting in.
Yes.
Why? Tell them why you don't want sympathy. You said it a couple of times. If I see him in the street, I don't want sympathy. Why not?
Sympathy doesn't cure cancer. That's why I don't want it. And I would rather they come up to me and said, "Me and my family wear factor 50 now," and just walk off. That was what I'd much rather happen with people. And if you come up to me at an exhibition when they start happening after COVID, and you say, "Are you all right, mate?" I will just look at you blankly. But if you come up and go, "My kids wear factor 50 now," I will shake your arm off. Because what's happened to me has made a positive difference to you, and it could save you or your kid's life. If you go and have a mole looked at that you've been ignoring, and they cut it out and it never reoccurs, us doing what we're doing today is save someone's life. Can there be any more noble pursuit than that?
No, not at all.
Fuck how many turns it is on a chod rig up the hook, and whether it should be a big loop or a small loop, or that's complete and utter trivial bollocks, isn't it? By comparison to this, this is life and death.
Totally,
you know,
different level.
Different level. Yeah, that's why I said to you, Tobe, this will be one of the best podcasts we ever recorded,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
going to love it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say anything about it because I wanted the shock factor. I want people
Mate,
to
the
think
shock factor,
the
yeah.
sun can kill me. Respect it, but it can kill me.
See, I'm feeling, because I went fishing at the weekend and the week before, and I'm now feeling horrendously guilty
Crikey!
because I didn't put any sun cream on.
Mate, let's-
Look at
going
me the
brown,
weekend.
and Mark Harris will come in and confirm this from a medical point of view. Going brown, no problem. Burning is the issue. When I was young, you went red before you went brown. No blokes put lotion on.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just went red before you went brown.
But I remember
And
when you were talking about your missus watching a thinking tackle and seeing that mole as well, and there must be so many people that have got these small moles, and they're and you just look at them and think that's just another mole.
If it's something that's come up recently and you don't remember seeing it before, what they say to do, dermatologists, take a photograph of your front and your back, and then take another photograph in 3 or 6 months' time and just compare and just see if there's any dots that weren't there before. Because they're the ones you've had, that on my face, I've got a little mole there, all these sunspots on my arm, no problem. Absolutely no problem. My oncologist has got all of that as well, and he said it's unavoidable, skin damage, unavoidable. But it's if you've got a new suspect-looking dark-coloured mole or a lump, that's what you've got to have checked out.
How dark is it?
Like that.
Oh,
that
really?
cut, like
Yeah.
that, really, really, really dark brown. Mine one was. It's probably more like that glass, actually. Wow. That sort of like that. And I scratched it and it bled, and that sort of thing.
Because
you know?
I mean, we do get moles. We get new moles.
No,
all
but
the time,
you
don't
get
we?
moles as you get older. If you've got a condition, my missus has got loads of freckles. She's got that condition. She's got loads of freckles, and yeah, that's no issue. But it's better to be checked out and know than ignore it. Because if it stays in you for years and it goes in your bloodstream, that's the end of you. You know. So I. 4 months into the immunotherapy, I was filming at North Bank, one of the embryo lakes, with Will Ward. Love you, Will, by the way. And I had terrible like here, like really like bloating, like that. I couldn't eat anything, and I was like, went into guys, and I said, "Is it related to the immunotherapy?" They said, "Yeah, it's your pancreas is inflamed. We're going to give you a steroid called prednisolone, which is great at solving it, but very bad for you in the long term. It's bad for your bones and all that sort of thing." Put me on this thing. 5 days later, went away, stopped doing it, come back again. They said, "Look, we're going to stop doing the immunotherapy for the minute. Come back again." I ended up on prednisolone for like 3 or 4 months to put this pancreatitis, it's called, settle that down, right? That settled down. I don't know, Kev, can you remember when we went to the Cotswold Water Park and I just couldn't stand up and I was just laying down all the time? And basically what had happened, the immunotherapy has damaged my adrenal gland, which is in the base of your head where it joins your neck. And that produces loads of different hormones, and one called cortisol, my body doesn't produce anymore. It's a side effect of it that they didn't tell me about, that as they're doing more of this immunotherapy, some people are affected like that. So my body doesn't produce cortisol. Cortisol is the thing.
Stress hormone,
First, it gets you up in the morning, and it's the thing that if you're stressed, it kicks in to help you deal with the stress. Yeah. So anything like this, you know, or being up all night thinking melanoma's coming back, I'm going to die, it's not there providing it. So I've got like a medical card on me. I've got them sellotaped to the front of the van, so if I had an accident, people would know. I should really have a band on, like Rob's got that Thrive band on. I should have one saying severe adrenal deficiency, you know, so that if I'm in an accident and I'm out, someone actually knows. Because 2 or 3 days of not having it, I'm gone, dead. That's it.
Right.
Internal organs all shut down, you're dead. So if I don't take it, I have to take 20 milligrams in the morning, 10 in the afternoon.
Blimey.
That's for the rest of your life, right? That's my pill box.
Is it?
There. That's my weekly. That's what I take every week.
How many pills a day are you taking? 15,
something like that. I
mean,
mean,
God,
a lot of it
blimey,
is at the moment
Right.
is painkillers because I've still got the lines in, you know. But the hydrocortisone I'm going to be on forever. That isn't coming back. Yeah. Do you want to have a look at that then?
Yeah.
Yeah. That isn't coming back. So we find out that at the same time. Then I've stopped the immunotherapy completely, and last July I start getting Raynaud's syndrome. Do you know what that is?
No.
Where the blood drains out of your external parts, so your feet and your hands
It's
generally.
like frostbite.
Oh, do you get
That's
really
what
cold?
causes frostbite.
What?
Do they get cold?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it happened to me in July. I was driving to Norton Disney, and because it's cold first thing in the morning, all my fingers have all gone white, and you can press them, and it just stays there. What you press into, right? Bearing in mind, I'm at Norton Disney. I'm supposed to be like rallying the troops, and I'm in the car park looking at my hands like this, and they're all up there waiting for me to be Mr. Buoyant at Norton Disney, and you like got your hand under your arm. I Google it. Raynaud's syndrome. It's incurable. It's a circulation thing. But under there, I don't think at this point. I don't think it's linked to the immunotherapy, right? The other thing that happened, we got a big slide in our back garden, double slide, and I was running up the slide, racing my little girl to the top. She was running up the steps, and I damaged my knee, right? My knee blew up like a balloon. We did a shoot for the clothing in July, and my knee was like twice the size. Went to a knee specialist, a Dr. Waltsack, who's just looks like Sean Connery, absolute legend, and hydrocortisone injection. Didn't solve it. Another hydrocortisone injection, which is not pleasant. If you've never had your knee injected, it's not. I wouldn't put it on your bucket list if I were you. Had it again, nothing. Right, okay, we're going to operate, keyhole surgery. Your knee's blown up like a balloon. You imagine, Toe, trying to move your knee around, and you can feel all the bits connected as you're, and it's all moving backwards and forwards inside as you're going backwards, as you're backwards and forwards. So what had happened is my immune system was boosted to such a level that it attacked my knee when my knee was damaged. Jesus. So my own body was eating me away, right? So they've taken the bit out that was damaged, and the immunotherapy has caused this Raynaud's, which I've got forever. Like in a couple of winters' time, we've got Korda mittens coming out, Korda foot warmers, because I need them for my own fishing. I did all last winter, fish like an absolute madman, and as long as I've got like snowboarding mittens on until I get a bite, I'm fine. So again, you just make the most of it. I am not going to stop winter fishing unless I am dead, because I love it. So you just adapt and you overcome, right? So that's taken us up till the middle to the latter part last year. Then I start getting a pain in my right side of like my stomach. I'm like, fucking, this ain't right. This is October last year, right? Then I get stomach cramps. Then I go for a crap and there's blood in it. If you're over 50 and there's blood in your shit, everyone's seen the advert, haven't they? And you've had cancer twice already. What are most people? Not everyone, Rob. Not everyone, but what are most people going to come up with as a reason? So I go for the old slippery fingers and the little tiny camera, which wasn't unpleasant, I have to say. If anyone's dreading it, it was worse that there was a little tiny fit nurse there, like, and I'm having to tuck me knackers back in the other side on my side so they're not hanging back out the back while he's doing it. And he said, I can't find anything, Mr. Fairbrass. You've got one hemorrhoid. He said, can't find anything, but we'd like to do a colonoscopy anyway. Why? Why do you want to do a colonoscopy when there's nothing wrong? So then I have to wait 4 weeks. This is when we were filming out in I was a bit of a bear of a sore head at times out in Germany, filming Masterclass, but I'm waiting. I've had this done and I'm waiting for the colonoscopy now. So I'm living like I've got it, you know. But I still film Masterclass, and it still came out all right. If any of you have watched Masterclass in Germany, the autumn one, I don't think I do a bad job, you know. So, and then I have the colonoscopy just before Christmas. No problem. You've got a lovely, beautiful, clean colon, Mr. Fairbrass. Absolutely no polyps.
Blimey.
No, right? Still getting the pain.
Right.
So I say to my oncologist, I still get the pain now, and we still don't know what it is, right? Still getting the pain. So he said, I'm going to send you to Terence Wong. He said, Terry was the smart kid at medical college. He was the one sitting down. This is Mark Harry's letters after his name, oncologist. He's saying that Terry's the smart one, right? So I'm going to send you to Terence Wong. He camera down the throat, see what it is. So he camera down the throat, have a bit of sedation for it. Again, all just like being in a hotel, just absolutely amazing service. I cannot recommend AXA PPP enough, and I pay huge premiums to them now. I'd rather do that than go on holiday with my family, because when the chips are down, you want that service rather than going to the NHS. And if you can afford to do it, then it takes pressure off the NHS as well, doesn't it? You know, sod that I've worked 30 years and I've paid my social security, so I'm having it. Fuck all that. If you can afford it, just get private health, whoever it's with, yeah? So had the first endoscopy. I come round. Terry Wong's there. I've got to tell you, Mr. Fairbrass, you've got stomach ulcer, almost certainly caused by the fact you've been on ibuprofen for 9 months because of your knee being blown up. Because after the operation, you still have to be on anti-inflammatories to help it go down, you know. So I want you to stop taking the ibuprofen straight away, and we'll do another endoscopy in 8 weeks. You double this stomach acid regulator called esomeprazole, which I was already taking. Double that, stop the ibuprofen, sort it out. No problem. Stop the ibuprofen. I'm up at Norton Disney looking at the house that we're developing up there. Wake up on Monday morning in my bivvy. I'm not fishing. I can't close my hands. Right? I cannot close my fingers. Right? They are locked together. And I'm doing this. I'm in the bivvy and I can hear them all going past in all the vehicles. And I'm doing this, trying to get my hands back. And eventually, I've got my hands back and I've taken my hydrocortisone and everything else. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on now? Right? So I'm thinking it's a side effect linked to ibuprofen that I've been on for 9 months. Look it up. There's nothing on the internet about side effects of coming off ibuprofen. But then I've gone back on it and weaned myself off it. So I'm on 1,200 milligrams a day, and over 2 weeks I've weaned myself off it. So just after that, I'm fishing up at Frampton. I've rung Terence Wong and said, look, I've got an appointment to speak to you on the phone, and said, look, I've had to take ibuprofen for 2 more weeks. Can we postpone my second endoscopy? Because I don't want to have a third endoscopy where I've not had the time to recover through not having ibuprofen. He said, I have to tell you at this point, Mr. Fairbrass, that you having a stomach ulcer has got a 1 in 200 to a 1 in 400 chance of developing into stomach cancer, so we have to do the endoscopy at the time it's stated.
Right.
What am I then going to think? You've had cancer twice already. Someone tells you it's a 1 in 200 to 1 in 4. I'm thinking, I'm the one, and I. Happy days, come on down. I'm the 1 in 200. I stopped fishing Frampton, missed out 3 or 4 weeks fishing Frampton. Doubled my dosage of and I said, I'm still getting pain. And he went, you definitely need to come in 4 weeks. What are you going to think then? What are you going to think? Right. So when I came round from the second endoscopy, right, I was utterly convinced, catastrophising, negative thinking, blowing it out, focusing, paranoia, focusing on that thing. I thought, he's going to tell me, you've got it, we've caught it really early, we have to take a section of your stomach away, it's treatable, blah, 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 like that. He said, the ulcer's gone, Mr. Fairbrass, there's a bit of inflammation there. Carry on with the esomeprazole, don't need to do another one. He said, I've taken 2 biopsies, but I know they're going to be clear from my experience. Boom. Slept like a baby that night. Slept like a baby. Put my little girl to bed the next night, read her a story, went in the bathroom upstairs, put my arm up to look and see how big my belly was now, because I'm only 81 kilos, saw the lump on the back of my arm. So I had 1 day in the last year, 18 months, of feeling like I was cancer-free, 1 night, and then went into guys the next day and they did the biopsies and said, yes, it's melanoma.
Right.
And then I waited about a week for the operation. Dr. Mackenzie Ross, the skillful surgeon, again sliced a bit of my arm, took all the lymph nodes away this time. That's why I've got the drain in. And the drain, basically, once you're draining less than 30 mils a day in each drain, then they take them out, and your body can then cope with it. Because all the lymph nodes that are remaining in your body catch up, because then ones are not there. Like, where's Dave? Where's Mick? Where's Mick? Where's Phil? Like, fucking hell, looks like we're on overtime then, boys, you know? That's basically what happens. Yeah. But I had to go in on Friday and have the bottles changed, which I thought was just a case of they gave me the bottle to change at home, and I thought, no, I'm going to go into the hospital and do it properly, right? So because the bottles are full, there's suction in them. It's sucking the fluid out of me at the moment. The suction had gone, right? When they put the new ones on, imagine having a 600ml syringe sucked out of your armpit like that. I've got this like hemorrhage or something on the back of my arm there. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a line there where basically the blood couldn't get out of my veins quick enough. And it's basically the veins like collapsed under my skin in that period. I didn't know this until the other day. I cannot describe to you the pain. Sure. I'm lying on the bench and I'm holding and I'm screaming, going, just got grit in my teeth like that. And she's going, I'll take the pressure off again. And that went on for like about an hour. Anyone walking past that corridor, by the end of it, I said, you are an absolute guardian angel. All of you nurses, like the professionalism and the way you deal with this, you're the heroes of modern day society, not footballers or fishermen. Do you know what I mean? Or Ant and Dec or whatever, people that are saving people's lives on a daily basis and caring for them. I said, you're just, you deserve far more credit than you get. You know,
absolutely.
And how long do you have to wear this for now, then?
Well, I reckon I'm seeing Dr. Mackenzie Ross on Wednesday. I reckon I've got it in for another, maybe this week, and it'll come out. And then you just got to hope that you don't get fluid retention down your right hand side. You can get some lymph, something where your arm won't drain the fluid away, so you get like a big old heavy arm. Do you know what I mean? And that could still happen. I've got to sort of deal with that, but I'm going to go back. I'm going to have immunotherapy again, but a stronger one. Mark Harris just went, well, we've totally knocked out your adrenal gland already, so there's not a lot worse we can do to you, so you might as well have it. I'm like, all right, cheers, thanks very much. You know, the other thing they can do, it's mad. If you get loads of lumps come up, they can inject them with the cancerous version of a cold sore, and it spreads between all the lumps and can kill them, but it takes months to work, and obviously in them months it can spread into your bloodstream. So excision, getting rid of it as they call it, is the best way at this stage. The other thing they can do, get this, Toad, they can give your arm a separate blood supply under general anaesthetic, and they can inject your arm with so much chemo that it would kill you, and that kills the melanoma. But obviously the risks of having your arm under a separate blood supply under general, like, my right arm's important to me in lots of ways. In lots of ways. And I honestly think I'd rather fight it out and have my right arm so I could fish than live longer and not be able to cast out anymore.
Sorry, Dan, what's the success rate of a procedure like that? Do you know?
I haven't got a clue. I'm not even asked you. I used to investigate all these things,
you know a lot,
and it doesn't help.
No.
Knowing doesn't help. You're better off focusing on all the things you want to do in your life and focusing on all of those positive things. And because I've had suspected stomach. Bowel cancer.
I can't believe that.
Right?
So that podcast
podcast, I was waiting for the colonoscopy, and I thought, I'm doing this anyway. Nothing is going to get in the way of it. I'm doing it anyway, and I'm going to be absolutely myself. And I'm choosing to put that to one side because I just want to be me, and I want to go out, and I still want to contribute, and I still want to inspire people with podcasts and all that sort of thing. And that is not going to get in the way of that. And now I can acknowledge the strength that it takes to do that. That, again, that's just building my self-esteem all the time. I'm just reinforcing what an exceptional person I am. And I'm not the best person, and I don't need to be the best person. But for me, I'm as good as I can be for me. Right? Recently, we've employed a guy to run Embryo Europe. Did you know about that?
No, I didn't know.
So Embryo Europe, basically, we've already got a lake in Italy. We've got 2 more lakes in Italy coming online this year, but we wanted to do it in Europe. Cool. And while all this is going on, I think somebody's had the bright idea of revisiting it, and I can't say no, can I? Because I don't want anyone to know that I'm dealing with all this stuff. So I've said, we've had the Zooms with the guys to employ them, a Belgian and a Dutchman. We had Zoom interviews, had a second interview with them, maybe I don't know. Maybe we did, but long interviews with them. And the guy we employed, Michael Voet, is from Belgium. He left the Belgium Special Forces to come and run Embryo.
Wow.
He's a medic in the Belgium Special Forces, right? So he puts people back together on the battlefield.
Yeah.
He's designed all the triage and everything for the UN, so they use his procedures, right? Serious geezer. I hadn't spoken to him. I hadn't spoken to him in the first 3 weeks of him being employed because of this. And I had a Zoom with him the other day. He was in his van in Belgium, having just looked at a lake that we might get, and I showed him the whole thing. And at the end of it, he did a U. He just like looked at me like that, and he went, you're a fucking tough bloke.
Wow.
Coming from
fair
him,
play, yeah.
Because I've got a total admiration. Anyone who puts their life in harm's way for Queen and Country or King and Country,
Of course.
is another one of the heroes of our modern
Absolutely.
society. And we,
Yeah.
they do what they do so that we can do all this bollocks and think it's really important,
Yeah, 100%.
don't they?
Yeah.
And they do it all the time, and they don't get anything like enough credit. And the MOD a lot of the time treats them very badly when they leave, don't they? You know, I've read so many books on SAS people and the Pathfinders and all that amazing
That's what I
individuals.
saw in Los
you know.
Angeles a few years ago, and they got these tented villages everywhere there. And I said to my friend, what's all these tents? And
Servicemen.
that's ex-vets.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, they get well looked after, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
Makes you
it's
sick.
it's horrendous. It's horrendous. But
So the Embryo Europe thing. I mean,
the
so
Embryo
you're
Europe
looking
thing. So Embryo Europe basically, he's got about 50 lakes already
he?
because there's
Cool.
so much water there. If you
Yeah,
go
I
over
bet.
there, there's
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
water there, and when you've got a huge organisation backing up a non-for-profit organisation, and you've got that track record of all the lakes we've done in England already, and you can show them the website of these just scores of lakes, you know, and you've got Matt who runs Embryo UK, who I absolutely would take a bullet for, who is a 1 in 7 billion. Mikkel is Matt in Belgium. He's the same type of
Oh,
guy.
you're lucky.
He's so no, it's not luck. There's no such thing as luck, mate. We put the advert out. We chose the right people to interview, and I picked the right person for the job.
Okay.
That's not luck. Catching a carp is not luck. We go, oh, lucky that you had that one that you really wanted. No, you put it in the place that one was swimming, and you put the right bait that you wanted to eat, and it ate it, and you landed it. That is not luck. That is a convergence of circumstance, isn't it? That's not luck. You have created what that's happened, and that now because I put that in my own fishing now. There's no such thing as that. I've thrown all my lucky charms away, everything.
Yeah,
My-
we-
my-
I'm
we've
going to
got
throw
your-
the Buddha away
We
now.
got your lucky
my-
stick, didn't we?
But yeah, exactly, because I
That's
said there's
it.
no such thing as luck, and
Yeah.
that all comes from the learning that I've done with Rob.
Yeah.
My missus bought me a pair of boobs, right, with a hook in it, right, right, that I used to hang on my buzz bars, right, when we first started going out, and I lost it, right, and a couple of years later. No, it wasn't that. I've got a shark. I've got a great white shark because I love sharks.
You like those, don't you?
I love shark, and I lost it. And 2 years later, it turned up in the post, and someone said, "I fished Elstow when you fished Elstow," and I saw that next to your rods, and I found it in the edge, like a year later, just in the reeds, just lapping up, and I knew it was yours, and I posted it to you, and it's on my mantelpiece at home. But I will never bring it fishing with because that fucking shark is not going to catch me a carp, is it? Yeah. I used to drive down to Gigantica and see a single magpie all the way down
Wave at
and
them.
fish like a complete and utter prick because I'd seen 5 magpies, choose the wrong swim, fish it. No, you laugh.
No, I know.
But how many people do this?
Yeah.
How many people do that? There's no such thing as luck. It's utter rubbish. And
It's worrying when we use that as a figure of speech as well, isn't it?
yeah,
Because-
like touch wood. Like good luck, tight lines,
yeah.
mate, and all that sort of thing. And when people say to me, "Oh, good luck, mate," I say, "Mate, ain't luck. I've either got it in the right spot or the wrong spot," and they just walk off scratching their head.
Is it a figure of speech, or do we actually
That's
mean
so
that when we say that?
empowering. That is so empowering to not have luck in your life.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
empowering.
All right, Dan, we got some clothing here on the table here, which is quite familiar.
Yes.
This was as a result of your illness before.
Yeah, so trying to find, I was still when I was first diagnosed and the melanoma was cut out of me, trying to find long sleeve tops to wear when you're fishing because I still was fishing in South Africa at that point. So every January I'd go to South Africa, and obviously it's 30 degrees, beautiful.
Yeah.
So have you been there?
No.
Lovely country, amazing country, just utterly ruined by by racism in both directions,
Yeah.
not just white black, but black white. It's ruined by both sides, but an amazing country. And I couldn't find anything anyway. I ended up in South Africa. I bought some shooting tops that were in this typical shooting. It's all Realtree camo with a big, like, luminous yellow, like, stag on the front of it, like, you know, and that's what I had to wear. And I bought some big floppy hats and stuff to wear, and I had a scarf around my neck and all that sort of thing. And it's sort of shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted, really.
100%.
You know, you can't top up melanoma. That's complete and utter rubbish. So I reckon I got it, one, by not putting lotion on, and two, the gym that I used to train at, Gym on the Hill, when I was like 18, 19, had its own sunbeds, and they used to leave us the keys to the gym, and I used to go on the sunbed for 45 minutes to make you brown
Yeah.
once a week. Make you brown and your muscles look bigger and all that sort of thing. That's low self-esteem. Wanting to have big muscles is low self-esteem. Wanting to be brown is low self-esteem. All that side of it. If you feel great about yourself, then you don't need to change everything, do you? You know. So that low self-esteem has almost certainly contributed to the position I'm in now.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like. So the two they're probably the two ways that I got it. So if you're going on a sunbed, if you're a lad at the moment and you're all hench as they say, and you're going on the sunbed and what have you, and you watch this and you still go on it, you mug. That's all I can say.
There's sunbeds. You have a different. Your skin feels different when you come off of those as well.
If you see that someone you know is walking around with those attached to them for 3 weeks and has to sleep standing up and has been in excruciating pain with it, and he's still not free of it, and you still go on the sunbed, you need to have a serious talk to yourself in the mirror, you know. And the same as burning. How many anglers like burn in the sun, especially when you floater fishing and all that? You forget about it all because they're taking mixers. You don't put any on, you know.
Yeah, well, like I said, I did last weekend badly.
Yeah,
My friend did.
And
as
I was
well.
going to say this is like that's a game changer.
I take that on.
You put that on once a day, P20. It smells a bit chemically. You put it on once a day. That's factor 50.
That's strong
I
stuff.
wear that in Ibiza when I go away for like a month with the family, and I come back lovely and brown. The tan you get is far better through lotion than it is without, and I never ever burn. And you see there, I've got that's all the lotions that we keep in our house in the front of the house. Yeah, so that there is absolutely no excuse for anyone that comes out. If they're going to be properly out in the sun, then we've got it covered.
Has your wife and daughter got quite fair skin?
Yes,
as well?
they both are. Yeah,
so
we absolutely
you must
smother.
Be paranoid.
Yeah. But you know, one really bad burn can set you on the road to skin cancer. So if you know you've had a really bad
one
really bad burn
Blimey.
can set you on the road to skin cancer. So if you know that you've had a really bad burn, go to your GP. Get referred to a dermatologist, get checked out, and once you know you haven't got anything, you know you haven't got anything, and then you just got to keep an eye. Like I say, do that picture of your front and back, you know, and just keep hold of that picture on your phone, and then do another one in 6 months and compare it, and if there's anything new, get it checked out. That's, you know.
The biggest excuse, isn't it, with not wearing them is that people don't like all the grease and that. But one of those P20s now is alcohol-based, and it doesn't smear, you don't feel greasy.
No. I didn't know that.
Spray.
No, I didn't know that. There's a kids
greasy,
one now. We've got a
anything,
kids one, Sun Care for Kids 50 plus.
Yeah, no,
I
use
that we put on Violet. You know, because they're in and out the sea all day when you're on holiday. They're rolling around on the sunbeds with their mates and all that. It's so easy to rub it off. But what I wanted to do when I had my second occurrence, I said to Ali, can you get in touch with Boots? There's your Sultan from Boots. Knowing Boots is a UK-based, very successful pharmaceutical company. Can you get in touch with Boots? And I want to do that in that size and half the size, odourless, colourless, in a camouflage bottle, our camouflage with the Korda logo on it. Every penny that we would have got out of it will go to Cancer Research UK, and then we can have, when you go into Boots, all them pictures down the sides. You can have all kids like out playing in the garden, kids fishing, adults fishing, putting it on and making it cool, and then do a little packet of wipes in a camouflage packet that's also cool to take it back off again. And Al, in his infinite wisdom, never did anything about it. And it's still out there. So if anyone is watching this or listening to it that has anything to do with a pharmaceutical company that wants to work with us to develop something to make it cool for anglers to have in their tackle box. Because a little camouflage bottle, young kids will wear it, won't they? Because it's camo. You know, if they're playing war or whatever.
They will.
And we're masters at making it cool. If we can make carp fishing cool, we can make anything cool, can't we? Surely we can sex it up. We can sex it up. And it's like,
if anyone's listening to that.
If anyone's listening to that, if you've got a bottle sort of half that size that will fit easily in your tackle box and a little thing of wipes, there's no excuse then to put it on and wipe it. Because that's the thing, when you go fishing for 3 days, we don't have a shower. Let's put it out there, we don't. Like Like you smell like dead people when you get home. Do you know what I mean? You really, really, really do. You know, and
You're not going to experience that.
I get it after one morning, mate. So I don't know what 3 days is like.
So 3 days of it. So if somebody's out there that wants to help us with that, we don't want anything out of it, but we want our cut to go to Cancer Research UK.
There you go.
Yeah, and then these other clothes, you passed me the clothes over. Basically, so getting back to the clothing story, we then got our own clothes made, like long. Rob's never seen these before, but they're super lightweight because in 30 degrees. In 30 degrees, you don't want to wear a long sleeve top with a high neck, do you? No. That's the last thing you want to wear. No. But that's what I wear all the time now. All the time, even in the winter when I go fishing. That is my base
You've got
layer.
buffs as well, haven't you, as well?
Yeah, we've got buffs as well, but that's a second generation with the high neck. And basically, you wear it when it's sunny, you wear it like that. As soon as it starts cooling down, you're out the sun, unzip it, and it turns into a polo shirt. Yeah. So your neck's really open. So if you're sitting in your bivvy, open it up. Pull the sleeves up, no problem. But as soon as you're out in it again, and then wearing the wide rim hats, these are okay. We had them styled on a proper mountaineering job, and they're all right. The cut, the camo and everything's lovely. And again, we'll just keep developing them. But at the moment, half the money from there's 4 garments like this. Half of the money goes to the Lennox children's charity, which basically is for kids with cancer. Yeah. It basically helps their family to live in hospital with them if they have to, or pays for the whole family to go away with the little one and forget about it all. And so far, in I think a couple of years, we've raised 44 grand. That's our entire profit out of these garments has gone to that charity. Nice. Now, because we doubled the product range this year, I said, right, we'll give 50% because it's not, this has happened to me, yet people like Damien are going to have to suffer from it because he's not getting his slice of the other bit. Yeah. So I felt guilty about doing it. But having now had it happen again, I want to put 50% of our profit to Cancer Research UK and the other 50 to Lennox. So we get nothing out of it because that 44 grand means far more to them families and them kids than it can ever mean to me or Damien or anybody else in this business. It does, and that's a lovely thing to be able to do, isn't it?
That is. That is
very good, mate.
Yeah, to be in that.
And if altogether, if people just put factor 30, factor 50 on, and they do thrive, then this has been worth Rob flying up from the southwest, and me exposing my entire life, to do it.
Is this a typical client for you then, Rob?
No.
No?
No, but what's been, most people, thankfully, don't have the same hurdles that he's had. You've heard all that, it was 1 day clear, it's celebrated 1 day clear and the next day it's back. So he's been really tested, isn't he? If you think about it. Normally when someone goes through like a training course or goes through the Thrive program or something, it's 6 weeks, and normally people have got a 6 week gap, devoid of any trauma or something, massive hurdles. But he's been non-stop. But since I've known him, something's been going wrong.
Yeah.
100 miles an hour.
God doesn't love you.
there ain't no God, mate. Sorry.
So we're going to see an
I've never believed that anyway, and I believe in me. Everybody needs something to believe in, don't they? And I believe in me. I always have believed in me, and I believe in me even more now. And I'm not doing down people that have got really strong religious beliefs. If that's what you want to believe, everyone's free to believe what they want to believe. But my beliefs are that life is up to me. When I go in the ground, that's it. I ain't zooming off to some other parallel dimension where I've got a big cock and I look like Elliot Gray. Do you know what I mean? That ain't happening. That ain't happening.
Okay.
That's so make the most of it. Make the most of it. And like I say, because now it's not it until it's it. I've lived like it is it when it's not it. Having the bowel cancer and the stomach cancer, and I've wasted all that time and had all them times of crying my eyes out on my own and all that, and it wasn't it. What a total and utter waste of my time. And now, from now on, it's not it until it's it. And I've still got this pain here now, and I'm going to go back to Terry Wong and we're going to look at it again. But I've had 2 PET scans in all the time that I've had this, and both of them have come back clear in my stomach. So it ain't cancer, it's something else. It might be stress related. It might be that, I don't know. But it ain't it until it's it now. you know, and that's a big realisation.
I just want to, sorry, Si, I just want to ask, because I know people watching are going to be interested. Rob, it's a question for you, really. How do people with this thrive? Because I'm going to be one of them. How do people get involved, and you know, and where do they go with it?
Well, if they go to our website, the thriveprogram.org.
Okay.
I'll text over to thriveprogram.org. I have to tell you a tiny bit of a story with it, right?
Okay.
So Dan and I are similar in many ways, right? And when myself and my researcher Charlotte developed the program, we have this tagline which talks about democratizing well-being, right? A bit of a mouthful. Okay, but that's really important because we could have sat on this, right? Put a clinic in Cambridge, charged 50 grand a day, only saw rich people, and I'd now be living in the Bahamas, right? But when you come across something...
mug.
Yeah,
What are you doing here, bruv? But you could be having beautiful, dark-skinned women licking your bumhole at the moment, couldn't you?
well, yep.
What could have been?
Now you're making me change my mind. But the point is, right? When you stumble across something that's really important, like the life lessons you've had recently, you want to share it, right?
Yes,
so this idea of democratizing well-being, right? We wanted to make it as cheap and as accessible to everyone. We didn't just want, no offence, middle-class white people to get this. We wanted kids in schools, in organisations, old people, in the far-flung parts of the world. So we've made it as accessible as possible. You can go through it if you've got some money with one of our coaches. We've got 70 coaches scattered around the world, right? And you've got some money, you can go through it. It's not ridiculous expensive, it's 900 quid. But you can just buy the fucking book, right?
Which is how much?
40 quid, £39.
Do you do an audio book as well, or is it just...
We've not done an audio book yet.
Do an audio,
because we're still updating the program on a monthly basis, right?
Yeah.
But you can do an online version of the we call it a manual rather than a book, right? Because everything's in there, right? Do an online version of the manual, and you get loads of videos with it as well. Everything is done, like Danny does with work and everything else. Everything is done to enable you as much as possible to take back control of your life and live the best life you can despite whatever shitty circumstances you might find yourself in.
Do you see Thrive? So are you continually updating?
Yeah, all the time.
Indefinitely, really?
All the time.
We're rolling it out at work. I've already spoken to Rob's new business partner, an absolute firecracker called Catherine. Unstoppable,
100%,
force of nature. We're going to roll it out at work, and what we're going to say to everyone...
Roll it out here?
Yeah. Everybody will be eligible to do it, right? Wow. Because I really cared what people thought about me. I had real social anxiety all my life. Now I don't give a flying fuck what people think about me, good or bad. It's so freeing. It's unbelievable, right? And I chickened out of talking to everybody about it because I was worried what they would think of me. You know, that's social anxiety, isn't it? Yeah. So, but now I don't. You know, and this is obviously everything that's gone on has sort of pushed me to train myself to the highest level I possibly can. Yeah. So I want everybody to do it. I want everybody at work to do it. So we're going to pay for everyone at work to do it. And you can give me up to half the money back if you think you got value, but no more than half. If you think you got nothing, you haven't got to give me any money back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the deal. Because committing to it, in the book, you have to sign a declaration to say you intend to change your life and you're going to work hard on it. Just giving you the money to do it, then there's no buy-in, is there? There's not the same buy-in as you.
We're all out there in California shark fishing. Sorry,
do you know what, mate? If somebody left to be a horse wrangler in Patagonia and it was their ultimate thing, nothing would make me happier, because I wouldn't want anyone to be trapped here in something they didn't want to do when they could go out and be everything that they wanted to be. Not you, Kev. Right, you're too good at your job. You're not going anywhere. All right, but everyone else,
we're surplus.
Everyone else. No, but you know what I mean. I'm joking. I'm joking. But I truly like the essence of human being is to help other human beings. Isn't it? That is the essence of it. The essence of human being is also to murder other human beings. There's two camps, isn't there? You know, and get over as much as you can. Get one over on other human beings. But there's also the other camp is to make as much of a difference. You know, and that's I said to Rob, I'm trying to change the world with fishing, and you've got this thing. That's why I said to him, you must come up and do a podcast because you've got this thing that can change the world. Do you think Hitler had high self-esteem?
That's a good question.
No?
Yeah.
Do you think he had a really high opinion of himself, or do you think he had a massive inferiority complex?
Probably
that
shit about
one.
yourself.
And how many people died at the hands of that infuriate because he had the power and the conviction?
He let a lot of people down.
If you had high self-esteem, like we're going to roll this out to a local school, so we're going to film the journey of 10 kids that do the program, and 10 or say 5 kids, and 5 kids that don't choose to do it. So we're going to roll it out to a local. I'm going to go to Jill downstairs because she lived in Basildon all her life. Get her to tell me the worst school. Like Rob said, you don't want to give it to the middle class kids. Put it in the worst school where it can make the most difference. Pay for them to go through it. And what they basically do, Thrive in Schools, they teach a teacher to be a Thrive coach so that the kids get the support. And we're going to follow them from 15 to 18. And then that's all going to go out. Kevin, all the guys are going to film it, documentary style, and that's going to go out as it happens on YouTube. And hopefully that will convince somebody in government to go, right, that we've spent this amount of money on these 5 kids. None of them have gone into gangs. None of them have done crime. None of them are drug dealers. You know, let's look at the 5 kids that didn't.
Bullying's down. Self-esteem is higher.
Yeah.
Self-harming's
It'd be much
down.
better to spend that money than spend it on expanding the police force to deal with all the crap that comes with low self-esteem and social anxiety. Because if you've got no social anxiety, you don't go into a gang, do you?
No.
If you've been punched by your mum and dad all your young life, and all your teachers have put you down, and then a load of kids go, come and be in our gang, we'll look after you, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's so
You
difficult
know?
at school as well. If you don't
What-
fit into a certain model, the academic kind of model at school, I mean, it absolutely destroys your self-esteem.
Yes.
That does. And
My son when he was 16, just coming up for his GCSEs, he wasn't doing very well, and I apologised to him, and I said, look, it's me and your mum's fault. We'd not trained you, to be able to work academically. I said I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm going to give you something to encourage you to work, right? And I said, your mum had said you can't have this moped. I'll persuade her to let you have a moped, right? I'll buy you the best moped we can and buy you all the gear and the training and the best lid and everything, right? And all you have to do is work your arse off for the next 3 months. I said I'll do a Google Diary of when your exams are, and I'll work it out each night, which homework, so it's dead easy for you to follow, and all you got to do is do that. Anyway, he did all of that, and because we're separated, and he came up to me that weekend, this was before his exams even started, and I gave him his moped and all this stuff, and he's overjoyed, obviously, right? And he said, but Dad, thinking it's a bit of a trick, he said, I haven't even done my exams yet. We don't even know what the results are. And I said to him, this was never about fucking exams. I don't care how you compare to every other 16-year-old boy in the country. Okay? All I asked for was you to work your arse off. You've done it.
Done your best.
Congratulations.
That's all
And this
you can
touched
do.
on what you said earlier. This is about, you praise yourself for the effort you put in, not the outcome.
Yeah. That's what I do
Effort over
when I'm at Frampton. I'm like, I moved 3 times. I could not have tried any harder than I've tried. So I can pat myself on the back that I've put the most effort in possible. And then I drive home happy as a sandboy.
1,000 people.
So
1,000 people went for one job. I think it was Microsoft, or maybe not, in Cambridge. You can have 999 disappointed, upset people, right? Unless you're able to process it in a helpful way. If you think, I did a really good interview, I did lots of research on the company, I looked good, I had a suit on, I had a little laugh, blah, blah, blah. I did my best. It's then a bonus whether I get the job or not.
absolutely.
Because you can't control. They might have wanted someone with glasses. They might have wanted someone fat or thin or tall or female. I can't control that.
No.
And this is what you were talking about earlier. Put effort into the stuff you can control. Fuck everything else. That's a new
That
name for
needs
a
to be
book.
on a T-shirt.
That's a book.
Yeah.
That's the next Korda t-shirt.
That's it, yeah.
Is there anything else you want to get into?
No,
Dan?
mate. I think we've more than spilled our beans, as it were. So
It's been an emotional podcast. It's been an insightful one.
I'm going to say
the thing I would finish with: wear factor 50, do thrive.
Do thrive. Yeah. Okay, Dan, Rob, Thanks very much. Hope you get your flight back on time.
We're loads of time. Yeah,
Loads of
thank you.
time, yeah.
Loads of time.
Thanks for coming
Yeah,
down.
no,
Ross,
mate,
as well.
I'm
Thank
honoured.
you.
I'm honoured that you've come
Oh,
up.
mate, I'm
It's a
honoured
pleasure
to
to
be
meet
here.
you. And next time I'll fill you full of steak and sea bass. And
I
all
turned
that.
Joe Rogan down to be here with you.
Well, there you go, Joe. We stole him.
Thanks very
Brilliant.
much, guys.
Lovely.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know it's in the song, but wear sunscreen, wear factor 50, wear long shirts, wear collars, wear hats, wear long trousers, light trousers, not heavy, light trousers. Respect the sun. Respect the sun. I didn't respect the sun, and now I'm in this for the third time, and it's getting worse. The operations are getting worse. Please learn from my mistake.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.